But has it worked? Hopefully so. I was in a little hobby hangout with a couple of mates, and then the missus called, so I got dragged away, and then I got into the thick of things. And so here now we are. So I decided, sure, why not? I'm tipping away, working on a bit of hobby, and decided to do a quick stream. Why not? See how things go. You know yourself. Is it working though, is the question. So, what are we doing? We have Stone Boys, is what we have. So we're working on these boils. And the whole thing is that we're building up a plume here for the Storm Boys, for their jetpacks, or like their smoke or their flame. We're gonna do it with clump foliage. Sorry, we're not good enough for you. Well, yeah, the missus tore me away, and then I was like, all by myself. So that's what I'm working on. I'm working on some Stone Boy smoke plumes. While I'm doing a bit of hobby, I might as well stream. You know what I mean? Since I was abandoned. So that's what I'm up to. This is petroleum jelly. Because we're using Milliput, you can use it for Milliput to make sure it doesn't stick to a surface. The problem I have is, I don't know how long I have this Milliput, but it's gone a bit hard. And so you can actually mix it in to the Milliput to bring it back to life a bit. And it works, not a bother. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we have some Vaseline. Just treat it like flour for like a countertop or whatever for your for the Milliput. And then we are just going to cut a couple of pieces and literally just work them one at a time. So we'll take this one, and then we have like the hardener, which is normally this grey colours, but I think I have this a long time, so it's got this sort of like brown on the outside, like an oxidized layer. So it's kind of like a brick, but it still works. It's just a case of having to add a bit of petroleum jelly to it. But you wouldn't have been hadn't you abandoned us. I know, Mark. You're just not good enough for me. I have standards, you know. I have a reputation to uphold. So what I found best for mixing Milliput, that's kind of, it's not gone off, but it's needs a bit of persuasion to mix, is I'll just sort of cut it into quarters, like so, and then we're just going to pancake these all down and build a layer out of it. So we're just going to pancake them, sort of flatten them a bit, and then I'm just going to stack this in layers. So this is the hardener, that's like the clay, this is the hardener. It's a two-part sort of epoxy putty, and then I'm just going to build it in layers now. So I'm, like I said, this one's got a bit of oxidization on it. It's, you know, it's a little bit old, this Milliput. This is a bit crumblier than you would normally expect, but like I said, you can add in a little bit of Vaseline to sort of bring it back to life, and we've also got the Vaseline on the countertop so it doesn't all stick to it, and we'll need it together. So I'm just flattening that out, and I'm just going to build a layer of hardener, a layer of the putty, and just build it up just to mix it. This is just a mixing technique because it's a lot easier now. Now, I suppose you could take each individual component, put some petroleum jelly, mix petroleum jelly in, make them a bit more malleable, Like I said, this one goes crumbly. The putty goes crumbly, and the hardener starts to get, well, harder. But it's not being mixed, so it hasn't activated. I know it's nothing too exciting at the moment to look at. Wear gloves, as you can tell. Wear gloves. This stuff is not good for you. Do not be getting it on you. So there we go. We've got ourselves our little sandwich, and then just squish it together. You know, like you're making your some form of epoxy putty samurai sword, and just keep folding it back in on itself if you can. Like I said, this is a bit old, this Milliput, so the clay part is a bit dry, but we'll keep kneading it. And like I said, if you need to, get a little bit of petroleum jelly. Not too much now, just a little bit. And it'll bring it back to life a little bit first. So we'll knead it a bit. And because the clay part is dry, it's very crumbly at the moment. But as we knead it more, and we've put a little bit of the Vaseline in, it'll actually start to be more malleable. And as long as you get a consistent colour, any of the bits that have crumbled off, just pick them back up. Just dab the blob. Like I said, we've put some on the counter, so we're not too worried about it sticking too much. And then just knead it together until you've got a consistent colour. It's like with green stuff, except because this is older Milliput, like fresher Milliput goes together a lot easier than this. So if you've not used Milliput, don't be too disheartened by what you're seeing now. Mine went manky looking like that, rock hard. Nice tip. Yeah, Vaseline, man. Vaseline is... John Bowen taught me that tip. He also taught me like about using green stuff and Milliput together. If you mix like 4 parts of the components together. But I don't have green stuff to hand, but we have Milliput. Now look at that. Look at the difference now, look. Like it is a bit manky. If you look at it, it's oxidized a bit. The clay part's crumbly, this is very hard. But a little bit of Vaseline and just layer it up. And look at that, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's perfect. So what I'm doing now is I'll pinch it in 2. Like so. And we're just putting it on the bases for me Storm Boys. So again, bit of Vaseline on your finger or your thumb, right? And what we're going to do is we don't want to get too much because we want it to sort of stick to itself. So keep your left hand dry, and then with your right hand, because you've put some on your thumb, you can actually just kind of sculpt it down. Now I'm not doing anything too technical here, I'm just sort of building basically an armature, you know what I mean? It's just, this is the basis. I'm going to be doing my clump foliage technique. Well, it's not my technique, but it's a clump foliage technique for explosions and stuff. A bit more Vaseline on the thumb there, and just I want to sculpt it down, and then you can taper it up as well, just as a basis for gluing the clump foliage onto. It's instead of having to do the whole thing as clump foliage, I just wanted to try something different. I was doing these explosions for Battletech, but they're much smaller, whereas these are a bit bigger. So I'm trying to do 2 things at once. I'm using the Milliput for filler, but also as a bit of ballast. Now, I've been putting, if you were looking at the base before I put the Milliput on them, I've been putting BB shot on the bottom of it, which is for fishing. And then on some of them as well, I have a coin glued underneath so that we have our Storm Boys able to sort of sit off of it a bit, and this will all be a smoke plume then once we build it up, but they should be fine in regards to balance. So if we put this guy, as you can see, he's grand. Now they will still tip over, but they should be good in general. So that's what we're doing here. We'll take this one now. So we have that one done. We have a couple of them done, and then we'll just throw some Milliput on the base of this one here, and we'll tip away. Keith Gross is saying, looks smooth, force it. You will using the power of the wah. That's it. Yeah, yeah. The video looks smoother. Cool. Good. Yeah, because I've actually put in some Cat 5 cables. Where we are, we ran some cables. I wasn't happy with the Wi-Fi connection. Was just absolutely terrible. I knew it wasn't gonna work very good. Sorry, I'll try and keep it on camera. But see what I mean? Like, if I don't have Vaseline on the glove, you'll see I'm starting to sort of stick to it a bit. Whereas if I have a little bit, I can taper it down and shape it a bit more, just with my thumb. But yeah, I actually laid down some cables. So we got some Cat 5 where we are, and just got a direct connection then. So hopefully the internet's a hell of a lot better. The camera's not the Mae West. I've been experimenting using the I forget the name of it, but it's a program that allows you to use your phone as a camera, but for streaming it's not great. Like I said, the Wi-Fi here is not great, so it connects over Wi-Fi. You can see it's not exactly super consistent on my mix. There's a little bit of grey there, but for the purposes of this is fine. So that we have our next smoke plume, and as I said, our stone boy will be like that. So it'll look pretty sweet when it's done. So that's what I'm up to, and I've got like 30 of them. So I have 3 mobs of 10. This is a conversion I wanted to do years ago, but I was never brave enough to sort of pull it off. Because I'd never tried the clump foliage flames before, and when I did them for Battletech, because it wasn't, there wasn't much of a gamble there, because I was basically making them from scratch. I was making them from paper clips. In fact, I have a little armature here that I haven't started there. So these are the little armatures I was doing for Battletech. So that's like an explosion, like an artillery explosion, or just like an explosion if something blows up. And then you just build that up. So I was making that out of plastic card, and then this is just paper clips all just bent into place. And then the next stage for this, because this is small, I would just glue the clump foliage directly to it. But because these ones are actually a bit bigger, my thinking on the process was to sort of build up the base of it a little bit, and also give them a bit of ballast. Which seems to be a good idea. I mean, I've not done it before, but sure, why not? So I'm just doing equal parts. I know some people have a different mix. Maybe they like a bit more of this and a bit more of that. But I'm literally just using this Milliput as ballast and filler. So I'm not too worried about it. You know what I mean? But I'll do it again. I'll cut it into quarters. I'll flatten it out, and I'll go from there. And I'll just do the layers of it, and it will work nicely. You know. So don't be too disheartened if you see your Milliput and it's like this colour and it looks like it's dead. Like, this is very hard. Just get yourself some Vaseline, just like a tub of petroleum jelly, and you'll be able to work it again. Like I said, the clayey part of it has gone very dry, and then the hardener, you can see that manky sort of brown where it's oxidized a bit. Just a bit of Vaseline, you can bring it back to life, so you don't throw it out. I know, so I've done it myself in the past, but like I said, we had John Bowen on a good while back, a couple of years ago, and he taught us all a couple of tricks. He even had a little oven on his desk that was made from like a bulb for his green stuff oven. To speed up the curing process for miniatures that he had sculpted without losing all the green stuff, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, John had a lot of neat tricks, and this was one of them. One of them was using Vaseline. That was one of the tricks of the trade. But this is what I'm going to be doing for an hour or so, so I thought I'd throw on an L stream. Look at how dry that is. That's just crumbling apart there. But we'll mix it together and we'll throw a bit more Vaseline in, it'll be grand. It really is kind of like baking a cake, because you've got to prepare the surface. That's how I'm visualising it. Like, if you put the flour down so that your dough doesn't stick to your countertop, and then building up layers. Mrs. Scarnier has made croissants from scratch a couple of times, and it's just nuts. It's like layer. It's like a little layer. It's like butter and pastry layered, but you like fold it several times and then have to let it sit. I think you do it like 3 times. So like croissants take an awful lot of effort, and I was like, they're lovely, but nah, you're all right. I'll stick to making scones or scones, depending on where you're from, and apple crumbles, apple pies, rhubarb. Love rhubarb as well. Love a good rhubarb pie. Love a good apple crumble. So again, just doing layers. This is just my mixing method. You don't have to do this. This is just what I'm doing, just to try and get it all consistent and just double it up on itself. And it's very dry, the clay component, but we'll get there. Yeah, so hopefully I'm hoping to get all these Stone Boys done for April. It's part of the Apocalypse Now theme I've gone for, a very sort of airborne theme. So I know I've got 3 units of 10 Stone Boys. A bit of Vaseline smooths many transitions. It does indeed. You'd be surprised what it can bring back to life. You can use it on car bumpers actually as well, like if they've gone that sort of greyish hue, or there's a scrape on your bumper, you can use a bit of Vaseline on that. It has many uses. It's not just for stopping your lips from going dry, you know. But yeah, I've got a lot of Stone Boys. I've some commandos here as well, so I'm getting my list together, and I still haven't finalised the list. Part of that is because Cop the trucks. Yeah, well, that's it, Tommy Mac. That is actually what's next on the list. Is there will be Chinorks. I'm gonna make some Chinork Coptas and make them from trucks and try and make them look like Hueys. That'll be probably in March. I think that'll be the last thing I'll do for the army. But I've a couple of ideas. I've been taking notes what a Huey looks like, how you'd kind of try and get it out of a truck. I've been collecting plastic card, getting all the bits for it. Now see, because I don't have any Vaseline on the gloves, it's starting to stick to the gloves as I mix it. So don't forget to keep topping it up, and you can see that it's sort of lapping up the stuff off of the desk as well. But you don't want to be going too crazy. You don't want too much Vaseline on it. Just a little bit. But there we go. Look, it's a nice consistent mix. Now you wouldn't think, if you didn't know any better, you'd look at that and you'd think that was dead. This one is hard as well. Like, you think they were dead, but I only opened these today. I hadn't broken the seals on them, so like they were still sealed. I honestly don't know how long I had this packet of Milliput, but I knew that we could bring it back to life. I'm hearing the flight of the bumblebee in the back of my head. Yeah, it's the what's the music? The Apocalypse Now one. Is that the flight of the bumblebee? That classical like. That's not. Yeah, it's not Hall in the Mountain King. Yeah, I think it is Flight of the Bumblebee. You're right there. That'll be a fun project. The kit that keeps on giving. Tommy, yeah, absolutely, man. In my eyes, I think the truck is the best kit because of just the versatility of it. The day that they discontinue the Orc truck will be a sad day indeed. Hopefully that day never comes. But it's a great kit. You just got so many components, and it has detail all over it, like 360 degrees. But I reckon these will look class. I don't have the finished ones. I did do some for Battletech. I just don't know where I've placed them, but they would look cool because I was doing sort of I was doing explosions, and then I was doing little plumes of fire, but they weren't as big as these ones. Just with woodland scenics. Or I suppose you can make your own clump foliage. It's literally, it's just sponge that's been coloured. And I paint them black anyway, so the colour doesn't matter too much. But I do get, have it in the hobby drawer here. I do get the foliage clusters. I like the clusters because they're big chunks. You can sort of get big chunks of it together. Now you can use like sort of smaller ones. This one's more granular, but I find they're messier when it comes to doing this sort of thing. That really I like the foliage clusters because they're bigger chunks of it. So you can dictate how big you want the chunks instead of having to work with smaller little pieces all the time. I found were more hassle, especially if I just super glue them on as well. I don't go too crazy in regards to prep after the likes of this. I just super glue them on, and then once you paint the black, and if you want to put in some flames, obviously I'll do a bit of flame near the top of the stack. So like it'll all be covered in clump foliage, and then what I reckon is I'll do a little bit of flame here, but this will all be kind of smoke. I reckon it's gonna look class. It'll look mint. Like I said, the ones I did for Battletech were sweet looking. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, exactly. I have to ask if it takes paint. Well, so what I do is once I've glued on the clump foliage, I seal it all off. So you could use Mod Podge, I suppose. I don't use Mod Podge, but I use PVA, polyvinyl acetate, or you could, so like wood glue or that sort of craft glue. Do we even have a bottle here I could show you? I think he's on now. Yeah, just white glue, just PVA. The sort of hobby glue. That works fine. What I do is I do a mix. I think it's about 50-50. I do a 50-50 mix. Not too thick now, but also not too runny. So yeah, about a 50-50 mix. And then I'll coat the whole thing in PVA after I've glued it all on, and I'm happy with the way it's turned out in regards to the paint. And then it hardens then, and actually it hardens up and it takes paint really well then because you've sealed it in. Otherwise it's sponge. Now you can paint clump foliage, but it's sponge, so it'll be a pain, and then by the time the paint dries on it, it will have a hardened coat anyway. So it's up to you, but that's what I do. I put on the clump foliage. I literally just super glue it on, and I don't use a runny super glue. I like to use a thick super glue or a medium super glue because I find it helps with the control an awful lot. If it's just like a very thin super glue, it just gets bleeding everywhere and it's a mess, and you're trying to glue a part on here, and if it's a thin super glue, you're going to end up with it everywhere, and you don't really want to coat too much of it with super glue, especially the exterior, because it affects the texture, and the texture is what you're looking for. That's what gives it that smoke sort of look, is that texture of the clump foliage. Once you've got it painted up, it takes once you've got that layer of PVA sealed into it, it takes a dry brush really well. Get yourself like a black base coat on it, whatever black you prefer to use. I use the Vallejo Model Black. Once you get yourself that black on it, and then you just come back with a light grey, and then lightly dry brush even just the top few layers of it, it looks amazing straight away. It's such a simple technique, but the visual looks great. And I like them. I was doing them just for sort of like photo ops, for battle reports, and yet I've misplaced them, so I need to either find them or make more, and then crack on. But I reckon these Storm Boys are gonna look mint. So Storm Boys, I have a unit of Commandos as well. I got the new Commandos. I've only just put them together, so I have new Commandos as well. So I'm thinking, units of Storm Boys, Commandos, sort of the theme is that it's sort of an airborne one. So you'll have units coming in on the Chinook copters, and then you'll have the commandos. Obviously, will come out of the woodwork, and then the stone boys will drop in. So it's a play on the fact that because I live in Ireland, anytime we do a war boss meet or we do battle reports or such in the UK, I have to fly in anyway. I've a couple of the yard cases that GW did. In my opinion, they're the best cases they ever made. Pity they discontinued them. But I've a couple of those cases. So the joke is kind of like, well, since I always have to fly in, my troops will fly in this time as well. That was the theme I was going for. I've seen guys throw bits of foam, green dye, some glue and water in a binder to make clump foliage. Yeah, you can do that, yeah. You can make your own clump foliage, putting sponge in an old blender and then dyeing it, yeah. I'd have to buy my own special blend, as my wife would definitely be displeased. Yes, I think if you're going to use a blender for making your own clump foliage, don't use the family one. Get a second-hand cheapo one, or one that's about to die, or if you're about to upgrade, take that opportunity to then lay claim to the old one as the clump foliage blender. Nick's here with his hashtag abandonment, lol. What's the crack, Nick? As you can see, I've actually managed to get things to work now. Not that you're bitter about it. You wouldn't be bitter at all. No, sure you wouldn't, Nick. Sure you wouldn't. What's the crack with you, bud? How are you keeping? Unlocking this. And what is this? I feel like I was stood up. How about you, Grey Primer? Oh, just stick the knife in and twist it. Well, the missus called me and then she was like, I'm going to bed early. And I was like, I'm here by myself now. I could do a stream, which is what I decided to do. I was like, I'll see if it'll work. And it's worked. And hopefully not too many issues. It doesn't look to Mae West. There's no frills or anything flashy about it. The camera is shocking, by the way. I need to, this is it focused in. So these old C920s, I think, have seen the end of their days. I've tried doing... what's it called? There's like camera software for Droid Cam. That's what it's called. How was my new Commando experience? It's your favorite kit since 7th. I have to say thanks to Nick from Grey Primer. He sent me the instructions because I'd lost mine. And to be honest, if I hadn't gotten the instructions off of Nick, these boys, there was absolutely no way I was going to end up building these correctly. Absolutely no way. I need to find a little 25mm base for the distraction grot. I think it's the only one I need to do now. I have the rest of them built up, but yeah, I couldn't even find bases for them. I had to go out and buy bases off of GW, 32mm bases, because I'd lost them. And yeah, no, it's a really nice kit. Just it's very complicated building them. Like, if you don't have the instructions, good luck to you building them. And then I think there's a good few of them that can be built in several ways. Now, I built all the specialist ones, all the specialist commandos, because I have, I have I think of all the commandos ever made. So if the second ed guys in metal, then I've got, when 4th edition City Fight came out, that we got the metal commandos that we had for a good while there. And then I have the specialist weapons for them as well. So I have the Borna guy, the big shooter guy, the guy with the rocket. I don't think there was a guy with a rocket. There's a conversion for that. And then I actually have the Forge World commandos. So it was a resin conversion kit. So it was heads and backpacks that you would use on an Orc Boy unit. So I have those commandos as well. So I have all the commandos. And now I have these new ones. So commandos everywhere. Lorcan is saying he got the canopies and windows finished on the shipbox militia. Good man. Nice. Feel free to send me a list to bring on Saturday. You know, I have no idea in regards to building for Alpha Strike, but if there's a spare list going in case, you know, they're short on numbers and they need another person, then yeah, wouldn't be a bad idea. So yeah, we've several of these. I've got 8 done so far. We've only another 20 to go through, but it'll be grand. Like I say, keep topping up the surface because you don't want this sticking to your desk. And then the gloves as well. I really should get some of the black nitrile gloves. They're more hardy. Like these ones are just dying on their arse. So they are. They're not lasting at all. Oh. Don't forget the old Vaseline trick to bring your Milliput back to life. It works a treat. So, another base. And it's the same. Just knead it on. And if you're noticing it's starting to stick to your gloves from working it, which is what is happening here, just get a little bit of Vaseline on the gloves and then just work it. And like I keep saying, this is nothing too complicated. This is just ballast and filler, this Milliput, and help with the old shape for when we go to glue on the old clump foliage. So what's everyone working on? Essex is here as well. What's the story, bud? Lorcan is saying, I haven't even built my own list yet. That's a problem for the Lorcan of tomorrow, or possibly Friday. Yeah, I get you. I haven't really played much of Alpha Strike, so I don't even know where to start. I do have some infantry stands. In fact, there's one within arm's reach. So I do have some infantry stands painted up and some transport and stuff, but it's the extra list building aspect. I mean, for classic Battletech, I can come up with a list, no bother. But for Alpha Strike, it's a bit more requires thinking. So these are the Storm Boys. That's some of them. I have 15 of them are at that stage where I'm trying to find me bits box and I want to do head swaps. And then I have 15 of them at this sort of stage where they've got a base coat on. Because I've had them since Storm Boys first came out in 2009 and I've never fully painted them. So it's just a case of taking them off. And literally all I've done is I've gotten like pin vise, coat hanger. This is coat hanger. This is coat hanger here. And just drill into the exhaust of the Storm Boy and go from there. Essex, what's the story, Essex? I find myself filled with regret of not getting the more modern metal commandos. Ah, did you never get them? I liked them. I thought they were cool. Now you had the same problem that you have with the tank busters, or the currently the tank busters. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully the tank busters are next to get the plastic kit treatment that the commandos got. Like I'd love if the tank busters got an update like the commandos did, because they're in dire need of it, to be honest with you. I've a bit too much in my hands now. They're in dire need of it. I think it would work really well if they gave the tank busters the same sort of treatment. That'd be pretty sweet, because the way they're working at the moment, especially for the army lists reflecting the kit, it just doesn't work, you know, because it's only a small unit. Like that box set has been out since 4th ed, so what's that? Probably around 2000 and 5th ed come out in 2008, July 2008. So those commandos are, well, Yeah, that was the Commandos. But the Tank Busters, are they from the same era? I'm trying to remember. I think they're from around the same era or later. But they're old enough anyway. The Tank Busters. We're due some new kits at this stage, you know? And it'd be good if they got the same treatment that the Commando kit did. Now, building the Commando kit was a bit more complicated than I would like, but the end result, I'm really loving it. Some of them are very characterful, really nice. I'm liking the specialist weapons. You end up with extra arms and such, because if you build them as specialists, you end up with some spare arms. So I'm liking that. Spare heads, spare knives and pouches and stuff like that, which is really helpful, because I'm thinking of either getting flash kits or knobs. I might do knobs because they're easier to do, and I might just make them as like specialists. So I'm going to build the Chinork Copters and then put like 5-man knob units in them and just have them as like specialists, I suppose, like military specialists, if you get me. So they're, they'd be like spec ops or something like that. So do them up with ridiculous guns and maybe like night vision goggles, or just give them, I was thinking, I had a concept, like I was thinking of something ridiculous where it would be like a silenced big shooter, but like a rotary silenced big shooter maybe, if you get me. So like 2 or 3 silencers coming off of a big shooter or a gun or whatever, and but having it rotary, so it's kind of like a silent Gatling gun. I mean, that sounds blood axe. It would be absolutely hilarious. Of course, they'd put a silencer on one of the loudest guns. That would be hilarious. Essex is painting up his Scorcher Buddy. I can't seem to shake the old habit of snipping off all the bits from the sprue, putting in a box to build later. Tommy, I nearly fell for that as well. I really did. I'm so used to just being able to, like, look how crumbly this one is as well. I'm so used to just being able to snip bits off and throw them in a bits box or a bits organizer, and then, coming back to them later, that I nearly fell into that, because I snipped all the bodies off, and I think I snipped the legs off, and then I had to go back then and carefully try and figure out which one was which, until Nick sorted me out and he gave me the instructions, because I had thrown mine away or lost it in the move. I think I'd lost the bases for them in a move as well. So Neil, one of our local Battletech players, one of the lads, sorted me out with some 32mm bases, but I had to buy more for the Storm Boys as well, because they were still on 25s from back in the day, so I've had to upsize them. So bases everywhere, but we're getting there. Both came out in 4.8, yeah, I remember, and the Big Mech with the custom force field came out at the same time. I specifically remember the Commandos coming out when City Fight came out, because I had that. I'd bought City Fight, I'd bought the little tokens for it. But I wasn't collecting orcs back then at the time. I was collecting Space Wolves. But then I sort of shifted from Space Wolves before the 5th edition codex came out. Quick swig of tea. Essex with plastic tank busters would be great and much needed. Ah, definitely, man. I think they'd sell well as well. And it'd be great, like, if they gave us loads of extra rockets and stuff. That'd be really cool. You know what I mean? It would be a great kit. I could see it being a great kit. Give us, plenty of tank hammers, more than you need. I'm sure they'd probably throw in an extra specialist weapon here and there. Maybe like what they did with the Commandos. See, I don't know if they'd give them the same treatment that they did with the Commandos in regards to them being kind of for kill team. Like, the Commandos seem to have been designed for kill team, because there's some of the weapons aren't in the standard game. But I don't mind, like, even something akin to what the Commandos have gotten would be great. Essex is saying he just rebased all his bikes. Oh, man. I mean, all my boys are still on 25s. Like, look at how dry this putty is. Now, you'd think that was dead, wouldn't you? Like, look at how much it's just crumbling and falling apart. But with the wonders of Vaseline, you too can bring your Milliput back to life. Like, it's just standard as well. There's nothing too special about it. Equal quantities, yeah. At least 5 minutes until the colour is uniform. Well, not quite 5 minutes, but Jesus, we're getting there. Milliput becomes rock hard in 3 to 4 hours at normal room temperature. Stored in cool, dry conditions. And maybe that's the problem, is that the room I was keeping them in, the temperature fluctuated too much. Tommy is saying, the way GW are going with upgrade sprues lately, I could picture them adding one sprue to tank busted bits to go on the commando bodies. Oh, that's not. It'll be interesting. But have the kills been designed for a commando team? Who knows, Lorcan? Who knows? You can feel free to inspire GW. Again, this is just me mixing technique. I'm just doing layers and then filling them back in on themselves. Burp. And getting some life out of this Milliput. What has nearly died, but not quite. Like I've said, if it keeps falling apart and keeps crumbling, we can throw some Vaseline in, but it seems to be alright, a little bit. Just a little bit, not too much now. But yeah, I reckon it'll be fun. I have not played 10th edition. I will probably not get a game of 10th edition in until we do our War Boss meet. And I don't plan... I can't even speak English at the moment. I don't plan on playing 10th edition after the fact. It's all Battletech all the time, baby. I actually do reckon if I wasn't in part of War Boss's channel, I probably wouldn't bother playing 40k at the moment. I wouldn't say I'd quit. I wouldn't sell me orcs. I like them too much. They're good crack, but I have a plethora of mechs what need painting, so having a small orc army that needs building and painting and converting in the span of 3 months. I mean, I've never done that much hobby. I'm a bit of a slow coach when it comes to the old hobby pace, but you know, it'll be interesting. I reckon I'll get it done in time. It'll be cool. It has a nice theme to it as well. I reckon doing the knobs or the flash kits. I still haven't decided if I want them to be knobs or flash kits. Maybe knobs. I have plenty of the knob sprues from the Saga of the Beast box set. I bought a couple of those boxes. I think that came with knobs as well. So I have a few of them. So I've plenty of them spare knocking around, and I've plenty of 32mm bases now, so I can do a few specialist sort of conversions. Special operatives. Timey Mac is saying, rumour has it orcs are getting funky limited box. New mechs model the size of a Marine Dreadnought, 20 boys. Probably monopose ones and a Stomper and a Codex. I did see on the rumour engine there's like a big sort of mech dude in one of the rumour engines. I think we're going to have to use more Milliput than this on this one. We'll see. Can we get away with it? But I did see the rumour engine with the mech on it. It looks interesting. I would like to see the Stomper get some love. I think that the problem with the Stomper at this stage is it came out back when Apocalypse came out, which was again in 4th edition. Yeah, we need to have more than that on it. So I think the Stomper could really do with an upgrade sprue. Just upgun it a bit, give it more guns. You know what I mean? Make it a bit of a threat. It's been around since before the likes of... I'm mixing this together now so it's all bonded. It's been around since before the Knights, but the Knights outgun it. So, and for the size of it, I'd like to see the Stomper be a threat. You know what I mean? If it's gonna be expensive, at least give it guns to reflect it. You know, It's a giant orky effigy. It should have all the daka. Or if they don't want it to have all the daka, at least make it like a beast in close combat, you know? Or bring back the rock and roller Stomper. Stomper with a death roller. Remember that from back in the day? There used to be loads of rules for Stomper conversions and stuff. That'll do. We're just trying to build up the base, like I keep saying, and it's ballast at the same time. That's not enough. We're going to have to cut more. And I'm going to have to buy more Milliput. I've already gone through half this pack. And we're not even halfway through. I don't think we've 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That was number 11. Yeah, we're going to easily go through another packet of Milliput. So, we'll crack on with that. Jesus, it's like a brick. Now, when I do buy a new packet of Milliput, it won't look like this. It'll look like that, and it won't be a brick. So, upsides. I haven't played 9th or 10th. Very little 8, but still love the orky goodness. I'm like that myself, Tommy. I've played a little bit of 8. I played a fair bit of 7th edition, but I wasn't too enamoured with it. Mind you, that's me mate who I was playing all the time when I was living in London at the time. So me mate who I was playing Eldard, and boy Jesus, I was suffering. I was suffering for all the fun I had back in 5th. I suffered through 7th. Jesus Christ. Wasn't great crack at all. But then I took up Battlefleet Gothic as well. I actually have my Battlefleet Gothic fleet still. I really should crack out the miniatures for that and go through the ships, because I was enamoured with the idea of having like space battles that would lead to ground battles campaign wise. I always liked that idea. I think that's part of the reason why I like Battletech so much, is because they are integrated. Yeah, this is just Milliput. It's just bog standard Milliput, but like I said, this one has seen better days. It's oxidized a bit, hence the brown mankiness. You know what I mean? And the putty part has dried a bit. And that's just from where I've stored it. I literally could have this like 3 or 4 years. I don't know how long I have it, but it's seen better days. But like I keep saying, the old Vaseline will bring it back to life. You'd be amazed. If the box set is true, it's one way to get rid of the Stomper and Boy stock. I suppose, yeah. I suppose that would be one way of doing it, because they had the Stomper in its original 4th edition box art for a really long time. I don't know if it's still in that same box art, but for ages. They must have produced an absolute metric buttload of Stompers when Apocalypse Force came out. And they've just been slowly chewing through them. Because I remember that. I remember the Stompers, even in 7th edition, I'd go into... What was the gaming store I used to go to? It was up by the Imperial War Museum, Darksphere. We used to go up and play in Darksphere. Up under the Waterloo train station, the arches there. It was in one of the arches. We used to play there. And I remember even in 7th edition, I'd go in to buy a Gorkanaut or a Morkanaut, and they were about £100. And the Stomper was about the same price, or only like £5 more. So I ended up with like 2 or 3 Stompers at one point. Because every time I went in to buy a Gorkanaut, I was like, well, I could buy a Stomper instead, you know. Just add a $5 to it. I could get a Stomper. Essex is saying, Stomper Commandos Tank Busters all out around the same time. The golden era for orcs. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's almost like it might be the topic of a future video. Who would have thought? You know? Just Milliput, yeah, Lorcan. Drunken Orc, Evening Gits, what's the crack, Sid? Does sort of look like cooled off grease in a grill, I gotta say, but then my putty of choice is Green Stuff's World's Brown Stuff, not a fortunate name or colour. Dim, one of our mates from the Orc War Bosses, uses brown stuff for basing material. I think he did a tutorial on it now, but he showed me how he was sculpting sort of rock because it's a bit firmer than green stuff. So he was doing themed bases for trolls. He was doing like cave trolls, and he was sculpting the cave rock floor sort of, that was their bases with the brown stuff, and it looked really good. So yeah, I could see the applications of it. It's a lot more sturdier. It's a lot stiffer, and it looks really good as rock because there's a bit more resistance to it. Sid, why do I have the urge to play Unchained Melody while watching this? I mean, whatever floats your boat, mate. I got the brown stuff to use and the green stuff for texture. Rolling pins, it's really cool. I actually have some of them, the rolling pins. They make great cable. If you've ever seen my... where is he gone? Have you ever seen me wow banner knob? Those pipes that go to his respirator, they're made from one of those green stuff rollers. The backpack's plastic hard, but you see what I mean. Yeah, they're great crack there. Is that Whoopi in the background? Dread's here. Way, what's the story, Dread? Apparently, you're supposed to mix this for 5 minutes, but we'll be grand. We're not giving it 5 minutes. We got the L Milliput going. There are different Milliputs. This is just the standard one. You can get finer ones, I think. So like, there's like white and black. There's terracotta ones. There's all different ones. Depending on what sort of application you're doing. I've only ever used it for miniatures, but apparently people use it for plumbing and, radiators on cars and stuff like that, because it's actually great. Once it dries, you can sort of carve it or sand it back, and you know what I mean. You get a good finish on it. I suppose that's where green stuff sort of started off. It was a plumber's putty. And then you can taper it all the way up if you want. But these will look totally different once we're done with them. Once we get the clump foliage on them. These will look mint. Now I don't even know what they look like at the moment. Now they just look hilarious, but we'll get there. One part of the putty mix feels like polymer, so that's probably where the rigidity comes from. From the brown stuff, I'd reckon so, yeah. I'd reckon that's exactly what it is. Now, if there's a little tiny guy here, because I've only got a little bit left, I'll take him off of his stand. And we've got a little one. So I've tried to do variation in height as well. Don't know if this is enough. This might be enough for him. So I've tried to do variation in height for the unit. And just to mix things up, because, well, I find that the Stone Boys glued directly to the base and sort of jumping off the scenery, it looks good. It serves its function. But for me, I wanted a bit of variation. So I've done different heights to give the unit a bit of verticality and sort of to give it some more sort of interest visually. They'll look better. Now, if you're playing in a tournament and you're doing WYSIWYG or whatever, it's detrimental for you. But I don't really care. I'm not going to be playing 40k tournaments. I'll play in a league with the lads or whatever, but I'm not too enamored. So it gives it a bit more visual interest, I feel, if there's variation in the height. And doing this sort of conversion with the Stone Boys, I think it looks brilliant. Like, even just looking at the unit as they're just sitting here on their stands without the smoke even applied to them, they already look way better. They look way better. So I'm interested myself to see what the units are going to look like on the table. I reckon it's going to be cracking looking army when it's done. Because it's such a simple technique. I mean, there's a lot of prep work that goes into it, but once it's pulled off, it's grand. I think it'll look cracking. I'm more worried about the conversions for the Chinook Coptis. Jesus, this stuff really is crumbling apart. That I'm a bit more unsure about, but I'm always like that. If I haven't tried a technique before, I'm very hesitant. I think that's why I'm hesitant to experiment with like different painting techniques, and I like to do a trial run on something. So I know that I can do the clump foliage smoke plumes or flames. So I'm not as hesitant now, whereas, if I didn't do that for the Battletech, I probably wouldn't have gambled, because it's like, 30 Storm Boys, you know what I mean? It's a few quid for 5 of them. So imagine, you cut them all off the bases, and then you're like, I've made a mess of them. I've made a mess of 30 miniatures. Or, not to say that I would, but that's the sort of, they're not cheap. You know what I mean? It's nice to have a trial run on something that isn't your expensive miniatures. At least for me, I know other people are a bit braver than I, but yeah. Once I did them for BattleTech, and they're much smaller. There wasn't any miniatures being gambled. I've been more than enamored at the idea of converting on the Storm Boys. Dread, yay. Shout out to my favourite Battletech channel. Well, yeah. I mean, there is Battletech on the table, but we are doing Storm Boys. We are doing the bases for them. We're getting them prepped and ready for April. Even Dread surprised. There's orcs on this channel. I know. Banner looks awesome. He does. He's cool, man. I'm very proud of him. He's one of me sort of first proper decent conversions I was happy with, and it sort of fits with the theme of my army. So he looks cool. So I want to try and do more knobs like him as like the Spec Ops guys. Tommy Mac says they look like anteaters. Maybe. Model and rule of cool is always right. Well, that's it, man. Yeah, it's always rule of cool. For me, anyway. You know what I mean? It's my collection. They're my miniatures. They might as well look mint. They might be absolutely terrible on the table by the time we get our games in. The codex may drop. They may become super expensive and not be decent in the meta or whatever. But I don't really care. I'm like, I just want to... It's a conversion I've wanted to do for years, but I've never had the courage to sort of pull it off. But like I said, once I trial run for the Battletech bits, which I don't know where they are, which is kind of annoying, because I'd like to be able to show you guys, but I don't know where in the hell they are since I moved. I moved places about 9 months ago. And stuff is still half packed up. I've only just gotten me hobby desk sorted. I've gotten the internet connection sorted. I got cables put in. Well, I got cables put in. I put them in myself. I did a good job as well, Jesus. Don't mind tooting my own horn there. Woo. But yeah, things are starting to finally line back up in regards to getting hobby done. And getting the old ball rolling again. They're saying your force is going to look mint across the table. Yeah, I reckon so. But I reckon it'll be the same for all the bosses. You know what I mean? We're all good at doing converting or painting or both. So I reckon they'll all be unique armies. That's the thing I like about orcs. Even if you're playing against another orc player, your armies aren't going to be the same. And if you're into doing conversions and such, you're going to have two totally different looking armies. And they may even be the same sort of force organization. They may have picked the same units. They may have the same sort of tactics. But I can guarantee that they're going to look different. That was one of the things I used to love about running big apocalypse games in Warhammer World for myself and members of a forum. We used to be on the WoW forum. And for about 3 or 4 years, I ended up taking over the organization of the Apocalypse games, like booking the tables and such, because because I was flying in at the time. Was I flying in initially? No, I was coming up from London, but I wanted to book far enough in advance, because you'd have to book trains and have to book holiday off of work. And at the time, I was working in an airport, so you had to give a lot of notice to get time off. So I just took over the booking of the tables, and I'd book them like 6 or 5 months in advance instead of a few weeks beforehand, if you know what I mean. Nothing against the guys that were running at the time, fair play to them, but that's why I kind of took over the owner. Just more out of necessity than anything. But I loved it because, it didn't really matter who won or lost the big mega battle. It was more a case of it was great seeing orcs versus orcs on the tabletop, and then meeting up with guys and seeing what they had, what was new for their army, you know what I mean? What projects and conversions they'd done, what miniatures they'd painted up since, you would have last met with them. And, that's the fun of orcs, you know what I mean? It's the hobby aspect, it's the conversions, it's the paint jobs, it's different people's different ideas or different takes on the same units, so it's a celebration of everything orky when you get that many orc players together. And for the most part, tend to be like-minded, Mostly creatives, very laid back. For the most part, that is, orky players, or people who are drawn to orcs, tend to like to have a laugh, Not take life too seriously. But again, if you're having problems with stuff sticking, the Vaseline. Oh, and by the way, see this Vaseline that I've been using with Milliput? That's not to be used with anything else. That's it. Once you start using it, just in case, once you start using it for a Milliput, don't use it for anything else. This is specifically put aside for sculpting, because you don't want to poison yourself. It's highly toxic, this stuff. It's toxic. May cause an allergic skin reaction, hence the gloves. I have sensitive gloves, you see. Sensitive gloves, sensitive hands. Well, sensitive gloves, these bleeding things keep falling apart. Need to get thicker ones. Those Storm Boys are going to look so good. Can't wait to crump them. Clint, your time will come, my good friend. Don't worry, your time will come. Yeah, no, it'll be good crack. It'll be good to see what other people get up to with their armies as well. Malignus, the Undying King. Hell yeah. What's the Storm Boys? What's the Storm Boys? Storm Boys. The Storm Boys are going to go good. They are. They're going to be looking amazing. Storm Boys. I think I'm starting to lose concentration in regards to speaking. My T levels must need to be topped up. I'll take a quick swig. Bet you this is lukewarm at best now. Oh, Jesus. Yep. Barely tepid there. We'll go for another 10 minutes, I reckon. And then we'll call it for tonight's stream. But I know it's been a random stream. It wasn't planned. I've abandoned many of my fellow hobbyists to pull it off. But I'm having fun, Just getting some hobby done. You know yourself. Jesus. And I'll hit up Mark's Models tomorrow, I reckon, on my lunch break. And up on Hawkins Street there. It's Hawkins Street? It is Hawkins Street. And see if they have any Milliput. So I can finish getting the rest of them done. Because I've, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. We're about halfway there. Well, yeah. This last one will be the halfway mark in regards to... why did I quarter it and then mix them all together? Well done, Muggins. This is the halfway mark for the Milliput. So we'll get this done and then we won't know ourselves. If the Codex drop just runs our list, why don't we just ignore it for our league? I mean, yeah, I don't care, man. Listen, if I'm going to convert up 30 Stone Boys and, you know, a couple of copters and bits and pieces. I mean, I don't really care at that stage. Put on a brew then come back. How's that for prime time viewing? It's like, oh, I'm back in 2 minutes. I mean, I used to do that when we did like the gaming streams, but that's because we'd be streaming for like bleeding 12 hours and I'd be like, oh, back in 5. You know, you'd kind of need to. Either that or you'd have to wear adult diapers because, boy, Jesus, the amount of tea I drink, you know. Art and Hobby usually has Milliput too. Ah, yeah, but I like to go into Mark's Models there, independent hobby shop sort of. I like going into the lads and having a chat with them and talking all things hobby with them. Buying me supplies from there, me art supplies. I like to get me glues and stuff from there. And they do the AK paint range in Mark's Models. So that's where I get my AK paints from. But any of the glues, like any of the Tamiya stuff, a lot of the tools as well, any of that sort of stuff I get from Mark's Models. You know, my sandwich of putty. And they have a lot of stuff in there as well. I know sometimes things may come in and out of stock, but I drop in often enough. I'll end up finding what I'm looking for eventually, you know what I mean? The lads will give me a shout. Now look at this one as well. It's just sticking to everything and crumbling apart, so a bit of Vaseline. Boop. Lorcan may cause allergic reaction, drowsiness and birth defects. He could have just streamed our Discord call. With you and Mark in a Discord call? No, I'm not risking that, Jesus. I'd be deleted off the YouTubes. Absolutely. Flick Mark's bad call quality on the world. What? Is this a case of if you suffer, then everybody else has to suffer as well, is it? Oh, it's so funny, like. Yeah, sometimes on Discord is call quality is in the May West, but sure, I don't think there's much he can do about that himself. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to having the boys painted up. I have the airbrush there and the airbrush boot. I've bought them years ago. I don't even know if they still work or if seals need to be replaced. But my thinking on it is to try and get the army built. And give myself, I think there were 16 weeks. So I think I've 14 weeks left now. I've 14 weeks left to sort of finish this project between building and painting. As you can tell, I've got a wall planner and I may have color coded as it gets closer. It goes from green to orange to red alert, as in you better be putting the finishing touches on stuff at this stage. And then, of course, we've got Battletech in between. We have the Leinster Regionals are in March at Leprechaun. So we've lots to be doing. There's plenty going on. Big fan of Mark's Models and AK paints too. Yeah. Oh, can't go wrong. The lads are sound. Simon keeps threatening to get the Hasegawa Macross kits, and I keep saying no, but they are attempting. Yeah. Simon's good crack. He got the Gundam kits in. They seem to be selling well from what he's telling me. They do get a few Gundam kits in, all right. I know there was a time there where supply of Gundam kits just kind of dried up, but it's looking like the spice is flowing yet again. And yeah, they have a few of them kits. That was him. You can thank Simon if you're into the Gundams. That's your cup of tea. I still have one or two of them I held on to. I did give away quite a lot of them though. I was like, it was an interesting sort of rabbit hole, but I was just like, I was well impressed with the sprues for them and the fact that they have multiple colours on the same sprue. I was well impressed with that. But it's just space. You know what I mean? You got to prioritise space. We go for a little one. Hopefully this is enough to sort of do the base of this one. It's just a case of having enough space, you know what I mean? There's only so many hobbies between the Battletech and the 40k orcs and the fishing, you know what I mean? There's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much space, you know? So, I prioritise the old wargaming miniatures. There's been weird production issues with Gundam kits, and Bandai have prioritised keeping as much of the line available in Japan as possible to the detriment of the rest of the world. Yeah, that's what I heard. They sort of protected their home market, which I kind of get, but also kind of sucks for people outside of it. But you know, I get it. Yeah, there was, I think COVID messed up their production line or something like that, or their supply chain. That's enough for there. If you know, if I'm not putting enough on now, I can always build it up with clump foliage. But it's not the end of the world. Do you know what? I might as well keep going until I've used. I've nearly gotten to the end of this Milliput. I've nearly used a whole roll of Milliput now, which I can safely say I've never used a whole roll of Milliput in all my hobbying. I always ended up like throwing out half of a thing or 3/4 of one or whatever. Apologies if the plastic bag sound was horrendous, but we're just gonna keep trucking. I might as well just keep going until I use it up. I still have a good few bases, so I reckon we'll end up with about this much Milliput left over when we're finished with the Stone Boys. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else that kind of needs Milliput on it? I don't think so for the army project. Is there anything else that's sort of flying or smoke plumes, that sort of thing? Nothing springs to mind for the time being. I mean, I could go absolutely nuts and do like loads of Borna Boys as well, but I think that would visually draw away from the Stone Boys too much, so I think I'll just stick to the Stone Boys being the guys with the smoke plumes. Oh, come on, 4 Orc Decay was right there. It's right there and then it flew straight past. Just because you see a terrible pun lurking doesn't mean you have to engage with it. Yeah, look at how dry this is, my god. It's disintegrating. And then we get a little bit of Vaseline, and then we bring it back to life. Hey! That's also what's spread all over the table so it doesn't stick to it. Because otherwise, boy Jesus, this would be a bit of a travesty. I mean, you can use it for green stuff as well. So that green stuff roller that you were talking about, Lorcan, if you wanted to... I suppose, yeah, if you had leftover Milliput, you could roll pipes out of it as well, or if you had a tube maker, you could do that. Oh. The only problem you have is green stuff's got a bit of flexibility to it, whereas Milliput, when it dries pure, it's like a rock. It just dries rock hard. You always engage with the terrible one. What is the plan on the basing the Chin Orc, if any? I have this crazy conversion in mind for a battle wagon that I've kept in my back pocket for years. That may include 4 engines off of a Tau transport. What is it, the Devilfish? And just the idea of it being like 4 rockets pumping out smoke and having sort of like a hovering sort of flying battle wagon, or maybe even do something like that. But it's more sort of hovering sci-fi tank rather than copter as such. But the basing for the Chin Orc, I'm just thinking of doing them on flying bases, really. I'm gonna have to buy No, I don't have to buy flying bases. I have them from my flyers. I have DACA jets and stuff, so I don't plan on having a Jesus, look at this. I don't plan on having a DACA jet in the army At the moment, I might do. I might try and do an aircraft and have like a MiG, but I don't think I have the points. Between the Storm Boys, the Chinorks, there's not many points left. I think I might do, yeah, 2 5-man units and obs, and then, like I said, if it's too dry and it's just falling apart, just put a little bit of Vaseline in. I might do 2 5-man units and knobs, because I have them. I don't have to buy any more miniatures, and I've loads of them, and they'll be fun. You know, I can have me little special operatives. Look at how dry it is. The title of your sex tape. Fuck's sakes. On the green stuff world things aren't for making houses, for flattening it out and putting in a pattern to make texture. Oh, that's right. Yes, they have like the textured rolling pins. Yes, I've seen them. They're pretty cool, actually. I don't have any of them, but I've heard great things about them. I think Dread had a few back when he was living in Galway, and I used to visit him. I think he was. Yeah, I think he had a few of them, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Do you always use Vaseline? I normally use a water-based hand cream to lubricate with you. Shit, lads, keep it clean now. Come on. It's because I heard water-based ones, you clean them out afterwards, and it couldn't be. I just use Vaseline because it's whatever the Milliput is made of. The because it's petroleum based, it must be, or something like that. The petroleum jelly, it just works. Yeah, I mean, you can use water to sort of you can use water if you wanted to thin down the Milliput, but in regards to like say this was drying out on us and we didn't want to mix it now, what we could do is, because this is pretty hard, but I'm going to use it up anyway, but because this is pretty hard, so you could take a single component and then you could rework it back in on itself and add Vaseline to it, and it sort of gives it more longevity. Whereas if we did water with it, it wouldn't be too happy as a single component. You know what I mean? Like if we add water into it, it'll thin down quite a lot. I mean, it'll do the same with Vaseline, but we'll see. We'll see what the story is. I haven't tried water. This is what I was advised to do. It works. I mean, we could try water next time. But as you can see, and actually, if you keep reworking it, and I keep saying as you can see, if we keep reworking it, it actually gets tacky. You see what I mean? It's not greasy. Like it's starting to stick to the gloves. So we'll get another base and we'll throw it on. Now, will that happen with water? I don't know. I've only watered down Milliput once before, and that was when I was making some rocks. So I was playing Battlefleet Gothic, and I got some styrofoam balls and I carved them into sort of an asteroid sort of shape, and then I need to change the glove. I carved them into an asteroid shape. Bad Fang advised me to do it because what he does is he sculpts Milliput over metal. So he'll build the base of a miniature out of he gets like tins of beans and tins of peas and stuff like that, and he'll cut the top and the bottom off of them, and then he'll flatten out the metal and have the metal as the base of it. These gloves are terrible, man. I need to get decent ones. And he said, he skimmed it, but you could skim styrofoam, because I was trying to spray paint them, I think, and then, anyone who's tried to spray styrofoam knows what happens. It melts. Now, there is a product out now that I think Army Painter do, where it's a spray paint that'll work on styrofoam, but back then there wasn't. We're talking about nearly 10 years ago now. And I skimmed the milliput, so I added water down to it, water it down quite a lot, and skim it over the styrofoam, and it dried eventually, and gave it a sort of a hard surface that I could then super glue stuff to, and I could spray paint them, and they wouldn't melt. DM me a photo. You want me to open a photo you've sent me, Lorcan, on a live stream? I was like, that would require arsing around. But I think I know the rollers you're on about, the green stuff ones, the textured rollers. Yeah, Dread. Yeah, I knew you had a few Dread. I had a feeling it was like if somebody shown me them before. I think Dim has one or two as well. I don't have any myself, but that's mainly because I'm pretty old school with the basin for my dudes. I do sand for the orcs. I just do like sand, and then for me Battletech stuff I actually use the Vallejo ground effects, I think it's called. Because it's a very fine sort of particulate, whatever component they have that's sort of the texture. It's very fine, so it looks good with the mix. Whereas I found like even fine sand doesn't really look well in my eyes. Do you know what I mean? Just in regards to scale for them. Lorcan, hey, I'm somewhat trustworthy. Oh, I'm sure. From a distance. I've given styrofoam a coat of Mod Podge to seal it in when they use spray paint without melting. I've heard that's a great technique as well, yeah. Mod Podge is pretty good. And it's become available now because I know it's become popular because a lot of cosplayers use it. There was a time when you couldn't get Mod Podge over here for love nor money, but the past few years, good few years now at this stage, it's become available and widespread enough. Like you can go into a hobby store like Eason's or whatever, or Art and Hobby, and you can get Mod Podge there. I mean, there's loads of variants of it, but yeah, giving it a good coat. I take it that was for what was it? It's not Mount Rushmore, Mount Orkmore or something, or Mount Crushmore, was it? Evans has it. Yeah, see, you can get Mod Podge pretty easy. Mount Crushmore. What was it called, Sid, your mountain? Mount Crushmore, was it? Trying to remember. But yeah, that was a absolutely cracking piece of terrain. I've seen it in the flesh. It looks really cool. We've been to Sid's Man Cave and survived to tell the tale. It is chocked full of orcs. Absolutely chock full of it. Yeah, Mount Crushmore. Was that, yeah, I take it Mount Crushmore was the one you did because you built it out of styrofoam, didn't you? That was the one you coated. I would presume you would have coated it, or did you just, like, brush it? Mind you, it's a big enough block, like. That new Army Painter spray works for foam, but is awful on bases because it's really runny. I wanted to match terrain with bases, so I figured why not use the same paint. Bad idea. Oh, okay. Was not aware. So you'd have to use... Yeah, okay, so it's just for terrain. I've not got any need to buy any, but it's interesting to have that of note. You know what I mean? Well, I've no need to buy any. I bought myself a hot wire cutters, and now I've found that trying to find extruded polystyrene sheet isn't as easy as it is in the UK, but I've found a supplier who's actually pretty local, so I shall give that a bash. What day we're today? We're Wednesday today. So not Thursday, but hopefully I'll try and get up on Friday because, they're only open Monday to Friday because they're builders providers. And their opening hours are like 7 to 5, so the only opportunity I'd have to buy some would be as if I get up at like stupid o'clock before work. And and get over and buy some sheets of it. Army Painter is just awful. I'm not too enamored with their paints. I do like some of their terrain stuff, like they do have some decent products, like, they do the laser stuff and they have some decent gaming stuff. But I like their little static grass clumps. I like that sort of material. I'm not too enamored with their paint. The Battletech beginner paint box set is all right. There's one or two paints that aren't amazing in it. Oh, that's too much. Like that yellow, I think it's called blonde yellow, in that beginner box. That is a terrible yellow. The coverage is absolutely terrible, especially in a beginner box set. Like, people are just gonna get frustrated with it. I would have actually put in like a wash instead, because they give you a metal, but there's no wash for the metal, so like a medium tone or something. Probably could have taken a bit of melty shenanigans, but yeah, it was sealed with Mod Podge. Nice. Yeah, like I said, we had John Bowen on for a hobby hangout a good while ago, and he builds his terrain out of cardboard and then stipples it with Mod Podge. And then he's like, yeah, this stuff's like, it's like bulletproof at that stage, Came in a set with sand, paint, and barbed wire. Oh, alright. Yeah, they were selling box sets. There was their Speed Paint 2.0, whatever. There were some big box sets of that, but they were steep. I was contemplating whether to buy one or two in for the store, but they're a big buy unless someone specifically ordered them in. That I just, can't afford to have a 200 or 300 box set sitting on the shelf there and not selling. You know what I mean? It's just too much money tied up in stock. Now, have we left ourselves short on it? You know what? We'll just do it all. We'll mix it all. Sure, it'll be grand. What's the worst that could happen? Famous last words. Yeah, Jesus, this stiff enough, the hardener. But you'll see when I get a new roll of Milliput, you'll see the difference. It'll be, well, the putty aspect of it won't be crumbling like this. Jesus. Which would also help. And this is why I was sort of cutting it up into smaller bits and then mixing it together, because it's like a brick. Jesus. The bleeding thumbs will be falling off me tomorrow. I regret buying the Armour Painter 50 plus paint set. So many paints had that coverage issue, even with metal balls added under the shaker. Yeah, some people swear by Army Painter. I know Steve-O loves them. But I'm not too enamored with Army Painter myself personally. I like Vallejo and I like AK. I like that AK is very matte finish. I have had some colour match issues with AK, as in like the same paint being a different tone slightly. But apart from that, I liked it. Vallejo are pretty good. I like their model washes. The Vallejo metal colours are really good. Yeah. They're extra opaque. I think there was issues with the longevity in them, that the colours would sort of shift in some of them eventually. But it's like any paint lines. It's not just, one paint company to rule them all. I find different ones will have decent products. I'm sure Army Painter do decent stuff as well, but like I said, for me, Army Painter are good when it comes to the hobby supplies, more so their laser line or the static grass sets that they do, that sort of stuff. Their paintbrushes I like, they're alright. They're workhorse brushes. You can beat the absolute snot out of them. And there's one or two paints in their line that I like, but as a paint line as a whole, I find there's, yeah, the coverage isn't the best on them, and they separate really badly, which isn't ideal. I know the price point's cheaper. I know that. That's one of the points that Stevelos come with. Nice black and washes. Yeah, they do, man. I know their washes are decent. For the black, I like to go with Vallejo's sort of Vallejo's primer black. It's a nice black. And I normally, it's a spray-on primer, or you can paint it on. I normally just paint it on, and it's grand. You know what I mean? You get a nice finish on it, and it's great for doing like checks and dags and hazard stripes and stuff. So the likes of hazard stripes. You know what I mean? I think they're pretty good there. But yeah, shop around, see what you like yourself. Like, don't just take it for granted. There's a bit of experimentation. The Vallejo model washes I'm a really big fan of. The AKs, I like quite a lot of their paints. I like that they're matte and they're really smooth. It's very weird. They're a very smooth paint. I don't know how else to explain it. It must be that like their pigmentations are ground very fine or something, or I don't know how else to explain it, but I find that the paint is very smooth and goes on very, very smoothly. I bought some of that because of you. It's great. Oh, the black and the washes. Oh, well, yeah. Cool, man. I'm glad you're enjoying them. Yeah, I love them, man. I like the dark green. I found that the dark green is their model wash dark green is really good because it's very close to the wash I was using off of GW, the Etonian Camo shade, I think it was called. Now, I still have a pot of it and I still have to use it up, but it's part of the sort of formula I use for my orc's skin, if you get me. But yeah, the washes are brilliant, man. Really good. And they're metals as well. But I'm glad you found it useful, man. Every now and then I have a tidbit of information that's useful. But, not all the time, but sometimes. There's a nugget of wisdom that just falls out of my pocket. These gloves are bleeding shocking. I need to buy better gloves. But more importantly, I'm not getting it on my bleeding hands. And like I keep saying, you don't have to be too precious with it. These are going to be absolutely covered with clump foliage, so it's not too much of an issue. I'm not being too precious about them. That one's alright. They're just there to be the base layer and to give ballast. Have we got a really tall one? Yeah, we got a tall one here. Whoop. Work overboard. So some of them are really tall, and then some of them are shorter. So there's variation in the height in the unit. So it gives a bit more visual interest, I find. I was starting to do them all the same height, and I was looking a bit boring. And then I started doing some taller ones then. And this is literally just a coat hanger that, I get 2 pliers and then just bend it into shape. And go from there. But we're nearly there. I think we've one more stand's worth. And I shall be popping into the old Marks models tomorrow. Hopefully they have some in stock. In stock. I wasn't too sure what word to use there, so I tried both at the same time. Katie saying I love their speed paint metallics, army painter that is. Oh, I haven't tried their speed paint metallics yet. I think my issue is I'm a bit hesitant to try their speed paint stuff again because I bought the first gen stuff and then, you know, it wasn't drying properly or reactivating, which I wasn't too enamored with. Now, some people loved it, and I was using that technique for this dragon, actually, conveniently enough, within arm's reach. So this guy was done with speed paints. So if you see all the lighter shades, I know it's a little bit out of focus, but if you look at the lighter shades on the wings, that was, I put the speed paint on and then came back with a Q-tip and sort of took some of it off, you know. But yeah, funny that the dragon's there. But it wears off. Like, I'd be holding the miniature and you'll end up wearing the blue off just from handling it. I use a lot of AK paints. Gee, the green stuff for the effect paints, Vallejo metals, and Citadel contrast. I wouldn't use army painter paints if they sent them to me for free, but some of their hobby bits are alright. Yeah. The rust stuff from AK is really good actually as well. So you have rust like this, but the one I really like using is this one. This rust primer. I stippled this on, and this looks absolutely mint. Now hold on. Because I know of a piece of terrain around here somewhere that's painted in this. Give me 2 seconds and I'll go get it. Now, here's a bit of terrain that needs to be fixed and is a little bit dusty. But that was stippled. I did that I gave it a base of that. Then I came back and I stippled on the layers, because what happens with this is when you put it on, it goes on light and then it dries a little bit darker. So I stippled on a few layers so to give it that sort of texture variation, because you can kind of see that it's black and the base. And so I stippled it on, and then what I hit it with after that was, now I don't know if I have it to hand, but the Vallejo model wash. Their rust. I hit it with a rust wash. I have a few of them here. Got it all nicely organized. No, not dark brown. It's rust. Where's the rust one? Rust. There we go. Look. So I hit it with a wash of this rust after the fact. That really ties it all together very nicely. And then I just came back in with a light sort of dry brush of metal, and it looks rusty. Well, I like it. It looks good for terrain. You know what I mean? It's not too bad. I think it looks the part. It reminds me of sort of like Mad Max, sort of desert world, super rusted, like a dry rust. And it looks good. It doesn't take too much effort, and it looks sweet, like, you know what I mean? Because I like my terrain to be kind of muted. I don't like it to pop too much visually, because I don't want it to detract away from my armies, if you get what I mean. Like, the terrain should be there, unless it's a specific objective, like a big, you know, generator or something like that. Then it should be like a visual draw your eyes in or whatever. But I like my terrain to be kind of muted in background, but also look nice at the same time, if you get me. Great primer saying, I like the green stuff for liquid pigments for rust, but that AK rust primer looks deadly. Yeah, it's good, man. It's really good. Great finish on it, like. Makes me want to make a Gorka Morka board. Yeah, exactly. That's the sort of, that's the visual I was going for. I wanted that sort of Gorka Morka desert planet kind of look. That was the vibe I was going for. This is the last one for tonight. And then that will be it. We have run out of Milliput. We have used the whole tube / container. Now the placement of this one's a bit different, but I've got a bit more of a curve going on. But these will look absolutely class. Now they look garbage now, but once we get some clump foliage on these, right, as soon as you get them sealed and you start getting paint on them, they just pop straight away. They look brilliant. We'll go in, we'll hit them with a bit of black, and we'll give it a light dry brush of greys, and then we can do some variation with the dry brush on the greys, and they look amazing with very little effort. So there we go, there's another Storm Boy ready to take off. These are gonna look sweet, man. So there you go. Hopefully you've learned a thing or two. I just did a quick sort of jump in and do some hobby while I had the ball rolling. I just felt like doing it. Next time we do a hobby hangout, hopefully Nick's on with us because we've got the old cable sorted and the old stream's working again. We'll get things going again. So hopefully you've enjoyed, and hopefully you've gotten some hobby done. And hopefully you've gotten a little bit of information or knowledge. And we'll catch you in the next one, folks. Normally we do them on Sundays, but sometimes when I'm feeling creative and productive, you know, you might get a random one. So thanks for watching. And we'll catch you next time. Good night, folks.